guys, and welcome to another episode of our video tutorial in your research subjects. So in this video, we will try to explore another part of your research paper, which is the conceptual framework. So particularly, we will try to answer the following questions. Number one, what is a conceptual framework? And the second question, what is a research paradigm? So I hope that after this video tutorial, you are now good in terms of writing your conceptual framework. Okay, so we will have first the definition of the conceptual framework. So conceptual framework, this is actually a part of your research paper wherein you are going to present there the idea or the concept about your problem in your research. That is why it is termed conceptual framework, because the main concepts that will be discussed in your research will be presented here. And to do that, you need to take note of the variables in your study, which I believe you already learned in our previous video. In here, you are going to present, discuss, explain, or establish the connection or the relationship between your variables identified in your study. So that will of course include your independent variables and then your dependent variable. And for you to be able to summarize or have a clear picture of the conceptual framework of your study, so you are actually providing here a diagram or an illustration which shows the possible result or findings of your study. So that's the conceptual framework. Take note of that. It involves the presentation of the main concepts of your study through illustrations by providing or establishing or discussing the relationship between the variables. And that illustration that I am talking about is actually the research paradigm or the research paradigm. So research paradigm actually illustrates the relationship of variables through a diagram. So when you encounter research papers later on wherein you have there a diagram that shows the relationship of the variables, that's actually the research paradigm, which shows the illustration of your conceptual framework. Some authors would say that the conceptual framework actually is also termed as the research paradigm. Okay? So in your research paradigm, so you have to take note of the following figures. We have there the box. So the box represents the variables. So in your box, it should contain terms that shows the independent variables or dependent variables that are included in your study. Another one is the arrow. So the arrow is an object or a figure that is being used in your research paradigm, wherein the meaning is it shows a cause and effect relationship. So if you noticed an arrow in a certain research paradigm, that means that it connects a certain variable to another variable, wherein the origin or the point of where it starts is the cause, and the point where it points towards to a particular another box, that's the effect. Okay, usually arrows are used when you do experimental research. Okay, apart from arrow, you have also there the line. So the line simply shows connection between variables, your independent and then the dependent variables. So take note of these figures, because these figures are not taken for granted. They have their respective meaning when you use that in your research paradigm or conceptual framework. Okay? So, in writing your conceptual framework, we have here the format. First paragraph, probably you will give a short details about your study. Okay? So, only a short description about your study. That's the first paragraph. And for the second paragraph, you are going to explain the possible connections or relationship of your research variables. So in that paragraph, you have to establish a statement, or you are to explain there what is the possible relationship between your independent and then your dependent variables. And the third one, you are going to present the research paradigm, which is already in a diagram form. Okay, so we have here an example. Okay, so we have here, for instance, research title that reads Readiness of Grade 12 Students on Home-Based Work Immersion. So that's your research title. And we have here the example of the conceptual framework. So we have here first paragraph. The first paragraph, you are going to give a short details about your study. So you will have to have this one. So we have here the first paragraph for your conceptual framework. Okay, so first paragraph, again, you are going to give a short details about your research. So we have here, one important part of the senior high school curriculum is the work immersion. In this time of pandemic, face-to-face classes were suspended, and so schools adopted the home-based work immersion. According to the Department of Education 2021, home-based work immersion refers to blank. Okay, so the ellipsis there would mean that there is a continuation. So you can use references or sources of information to support your data here. Okay, so that would make your first paragraph more valid, reliable, credible, and of course it is data-based. Okay, so that's the first paragraph. For the second paragraph, you are now to present what particular relationship exists between your variables. So we have here an example. So in this study, the personal factors related to grade 12 students, such as gender and TVL specialization, so gender and TVL specialization are your independent variables, will be considered to check whether or not it affects or influences their level of readiness for their home-based work immersion. So readiness here would be your dependent variable. So you are now establishing the relationship between your independent and the dependent variables. And you can add also sources according to, okay, it would be better if you have some studies, research studies already conducted to support this part or in this paragraph of your conceptual framework. Okay, and of course the last part of your conceptual framework will be the presentation of the research paradigm. Okay, so we have here example. Below is the diagram that shows the conceptual framework of this study. Okay, so you have there first the independent variables that is boxed, the gender, and then the TVL specialization, and you have there the dependent variable, readiness on home-based work immersion, and you have there the line. The line there represents the connection between the independent and then the dependent variables. And do not forget to put at the bottom details about the research paradigm. That's figure 1, the research paradigm showing the relationship of the variables. So that's very simple. That's the content of your conceptual framework. And we have here, if you are going to put that in your research paper, so we have here an example on how it looks like. Okay, so I hope that this video helps you a lot when it comes to conceptual framework of your research study. Okay, so that's all, and thank you.